Hello, everybody, and happy Friday. And I hope that you and your loved ones are safe wherever you are in this ever increasingly darker and more violent world that we live in, not just in Israel, but as we've seen in the last couple of days, even here in North America, and all places, Maine, where I would have thought is one of the safest refuges to go to in all the United States. I figure the most exciting thing that happens in Maine, or let's say the most tragic thing that can happen in Maine, is a branch falling off of a maple tree and hitting somebody over the head. And look what we've seen the last couple of days, just the carnage, even in Maine. 18 people killed in just a total senseless act of violence, which seems to be visited upon us ever more frequently. But back to my area of specialty, Israel and the Middle East, a lot's happened in the last 24 hours. Israel has amped up its ground campaign, and that's happening as I speak this very moment. Now, I can't give you too many details about it because that particular news is censored within Israel itself. We'll probably find out much more about it tomorrow when we all wake up. But CNN is also reporting that Israel has amped up its ground campaign, that there's presently tanks, or at least it's being reported by Palestinians on the ground, that Israel's tanks are in gun battles with Hamas terrorists on the ground there in Gaza City. And again, we'll find out more tomorrow. But as it relates to the last 24 hours, a lot's happened. I'm going to show you a couple of videos that just depict really well how Israel's been attacking Hamas's underground tunnels or bunker system, nicknamed by some Hamas's city under the city. Check out this incredible footage. Okay, here you're about to see a secondary explosion of an underground bunker going up in flames. There you see it underneath the street. And again, in this silent video, again, multiple plumes of fire rising where a network of bunkers has just been taken out by Israeli bunker busters. And here, an animation produced by the Israeli army of the city under the city. At Shifa, the main hospital of Gaza, Hamas's underground command center. This, of course, unfortunately raises all sorts of questions about the morality of war, or the war, or future steps that Israel will take in the war. Now, at the command center is under the city's largest hospital, Shifa, something that we've known for years. Okay, that's not a new development, but that's been the case in all of Israel's prior military conflagrations with Hamas. What do we do about it? Okay, now I've taken the side that Israel should win this war at all costs. The problem is that Israel fights the war with one hand, and I won't say with the other hand, but or at least with the other eye. It's always looking across the pond to the United States in particular, as well as others, to see, what's the American administration's reaction to all this? How would Joe Biden's administration react if Israel were to drop bunker busting bombs on the main hospital of Gaza? While unfortunately, we know that I think support from the president administration would come to an abrupt end, as it would from all other corners of the world. And yet, I tell you, Israel has to win the war at all costs. So what else can it do? If it can't take out the Hamas command center by bunker busting bombs, it means it would have to land Israeli special forces on the grounds of the hospital itself to try to penetrate into that subterranean area of the hospital at great cost to Israel's own forces. You can bet that those underground passages are booby-trapped and defended by all sorts of machinations of Hamas that will kill a lot of Israeli soldiers. And yet, it's got to be destroyed, either by bunker busting bombs or by Israeli special forces. You can't let that command center continue to operate. It's running the war from underneath the hospital. Moving on, over the same night, last night, Israel absorbed barrages and barrages of rockets from the Gaza Strip. And here you're going to see some images of the rockets as well as the Iron Dome, attempting to shoot some of them down. And as good as the Iron Dome system is, it's not hermetic. Some rockets do penetrate it. And unfortunately, a few rockets did penetrate in the last 24 hours, succeeding to hit an apartment building in Tel Aviv, as well as one of the more southern cities, either Ashkelon or Ashdod. Again, it's got one of the world's greatest, if not the world's greatest, anti-rocket or anti-missile defense systems. But again, it's not hermetic, and it gives us some insight on what would happen on the day that Israel were to be attacked by thousands and thousands of rockets a day by Hezbollah. It would overwhelm Israel's multi-tiered defense system, those tiers being the Iron Dome, which you see on TV all the time, which is meant to shoot down rockets with a range of, let's say, up to 40 kilometers. The next tier or stratum being called David's Sling, which is able to take down rockets being shot from a further distance. And then the final tier that caps all this defense off is called the Arrow missile, and that's able to shoot down ballistic missiles, okay, coming from as far away as Iran. In addition to that, you have American naval aircraft carriers in the region that have systems of their own. Okay, one of them called the THAAD, which again is able to shoot down, I believe, cruise missiles and ballistic missiles, as well as Patriot missile batteries. And we shouldn't confuse today's Patriot missile batteries with what we saw back in the first Gulf War when Iraq invaded Kuwait and the Patriot missile failed to take down so many of these Scud missiles. It's a greatly improved system, perhaps even as good or as accurate as the Iron Dome of Israel. So you have all these defense systems and tiers of defense defending Israeli airspace, and yet occasionally it's penetrated. On the Hezbollah front, the Israeli observers are still of the opinion that Hezbollah has decided to stand aside, with the exception of making some symbolic gestures occasionally, of having squads of terrorists shoot anti-tank rockets into Israel, and occasionally killing Israeli soldiers. But Israel has killed many more Hezbollah fighters, up to 60, is reported by the Israeli media. And there's other signs that Hezbollah has not gone into the attack mode, that it's playing more of a defensive mode. Okay, it hasn't stepped up into the offense yet, and those signs are many. First of all, I told you that they hadn't called up their reserves, okay, and they haven't upped their own alert system to a higher level of alert, which would predicate an offensive attack by them. But also, Israel's done a lot of damage to Hezbollah's front line. It's destroyed much of its front line that was on the border with Israel the past few days, and therefore that front line has now had to retreat. Israel has also set on fire with its artillery many olive orchards that would have given cover to Hezbollah squads for them to launch their own attacks or launch rockets at Israel. And now they no longer enjoy that cover as Israel's taken out these orchards. Thirdly, a newspaper closely associated with Hezbollah, in other words, nothing that newspaper publishes in its editorial column is published without a confirmation or approval from the bunker in Lebanon from which Nasrallah runs things. And the editorial of that newspaper yesterday basically said mission accomplished, that Hezbollah had succeeded in its mission to prevent Israel, and this is their point of view, to prevent Israel from waging a preemptive attack on them or any kind of attack. Hezbollah is trying to sell itself as the defender of Lebanon rather than as the defender of Gaza right now. And these are signs in the ground, or signs on the ground, of Hezbollah basically in standby, not on full offense. Now, Israel attacked yesterday Syrian positions, and this time it was considered to be not the routine Israeli retaliation. Israel has attacked Hezbollah supply lines in the past in Syria, okay, just the area there beyond the Golan Heights, or has avenged itself on Syrian forces in the past that were launching grenades or let's say anti-tank weapons at Israeli forces on the Golan Heights. And this time, last night, Israel stepped up its retaliation by hitting what's called the 12th Brigade. The 12th Brigade is assigned with the personal defense of Assad, the leader of Syria, both the defense of him as well as of his regime. And Israel had hesitated up until last night in hitting that brigade, especially as it didn't want to cross paths or offend the Russians, for whom Assad staying in power is, for them, they insist on that. Okay, why did Russia get involved in Syria in the first place a few years ago? To keep Assad, their client, in power. And last night, Israel attacked the very brigade who's charged with defending him and his regime. So that is a major step up in Israel's retaliation and strikes against the Syrian homeland. Okay, and they did this because of munitions that were launched at Israel's Golan Heights from Syria yesterday. And before I bring this update to a close, it would be remiss of me not to mention that there are a lot of voices calling for Netanyahu to step down, even in the midst of the war. Now, this is largely because of the total loss in confidence in both him and his government of between 80 to 90% of the population in Israel, that, in my opinion, rightly blames him and the government for their culpability in what's the most colossal failure of its political echelon and the country's defense forces on October 7th, okay, surpassing even the debacle of the 1973 Yom Kippur War invasion. So not only is Netanyahu being blamed for the debacle on October 7th, but a lot of people are claiming and suggesting that he's not waging this war correctly or intelligently. Now, I told you guys in the last episode that I personally believe that Israel missed a golden opportunity to preemptively attack Hezbollah and maybe the Iranian regime itself. That there were people in the government, such as Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, who wanted to preemptively attack Hezbollah, and Netanyahu vetoed this initiative. Now, I had said yesterday that I would have attacked Hezbollah and Iran before even addressing Hamas, who started this whole thing. That Israel should even wait a couple weeks to a month if it has to take care of Hezbollah, which is the larger threat, before redressing the whole Hamas issue. Now, I had said yesterday that nobody in Israel seemed to be talking aloud about this or publicly, and lo and behold, today, as if this person was channeling Steve, the tour guide, and obviously he wasn't, nobody knows me, but he suggested everything that I had mentioned yesterday. This is the former Defense Minister Shaul Mofaz being interviewed on Israel's Channel 12 News, being asked about how he thinks the government's handling the war. He's a highly respected former chief of staff of the army as well as defense minister, and he basically said everything I said almost verbatim yesterday, that Israel should have attacked Hezbollah before attacking Hamas, and that he had observed in his own time of serving under Netanyahu something that many people have said who have worked with him, which is he lacks the decisiveness to make the big decisions in that crucible or test or time of decision. And I agree with him. I personally don't think that Netanyahu is the man to lead the war at this time, and we'll see how this progresses if he is cast aside for somebody else. But I think there's people who can better lead Israel in war than Benjamin Netanyahu. I know that this is not the most popular opinion in many circles. It's probably even among those of you who are listening to me. But to me, nobody is sacrosanct in politics. Whether it's a popular politician like Netanyahu, whether it's the ultra-popular Donald Trump, nobody is sacrosanct, and neither should we extend to them a sacrosanctness that only belongs to Jesus, okay? Nobody on earth, including your favorite politician, is exempt from reproach or from criticism. And even though It's not popular. What I'm saying is, I know a lot of you love Netanyahu. Uh, Netanyahu, it's time for him, in my opinion, to move aside and let other people prosecute this war to its finish with the decisiveness required to win on all fronts. Anyway, thanks for joining me with this update. I'm sure there'll be a lot to mention tomorrow, especially if the ground war really is happening as everybody is reporting on the news. Before you shut down this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up, make a comment, ask me a question about anything I've said in this video or previous videos, and maybe I can answer it in the next video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't so far, and look for links that I occasionally attach to these videos below them. Anyway, folks, I'm signing off for the day. I'll see you again probably tomorrow. Until then, stay safe, be vigilant, be blessed. Bye-bye.